Thank you very much, and real quickly, I know that if you're not from Texas, you don't know what the Railroad Commission is, and frankly, when you're named Railroad Commission and dealing with a lot of engineers, it's quite confusing to the public. You got engineers and railroad, and people think we're driving trains. Frank, I always tell that I'm the Rodney Dangerfield of statewide officials, because I get no respect. I go to places and people say the Railroad Commission, oh, there's somebody here from the railroads, you know, that's all I forget. It's a great honor to be here with Senator Cruz and with Secretary Combs. Secretary Combs, when back in the day when I was in the legislature, everybody in Texas legislature knew to say yes ma'am to this lady because she was the comptroller, she wrote the checks, and we couldn't spend no money in a balanced budget state, so this lady said okay, and so we were very nice to sometimes to the secretary. And the congressman from here, we appreciate so much all of y'all's efforts in Washington. You've got to understand, for those of you that don't understand Texas congressmen and senators and representatives, humility is not very obvious whenever we speak or do business. You've got to understand there was an oil company in Texas that took a copyright on that name, Humble, and so we're not allowed legally from Texas to use that humility, okay? It's copyright. Okay. That's good, isn't it? Yeah, that's how. Well, let me real quick tell you, the governor was kind enough to place me on ILGCC, which is the Interstate Oil and Gas Compact Commission, which are the 31 states in America that produce oil and gas. And it was amazing to go as a Texas representative at the first meeting. And you had all the slides of the 31 states that were up on the Excel spreadsheet. The 30 states were there in Texas wasn't on the graphs. And what's going on? They had to flip to the next page because literally the production in Texas line was so far on top of the other 30 states. So it's hard to be humble when you're from Texas, regardless of the legalities of it. Of the 10 million barrels per day that's been mentioned, where we've passed Saudi Arabia as the #1 producer, 40% of the oil and 30% of the gas are from Texas. In fact, if Texas were a country, we'd be #3 in oil and gas production in the world. The exports from here, by the way, the #1 manufacturer in the United States is the Port of Houston. What's their product? Chemicals. 235 ships lined up daily to get in and get out of chemicals from the Port of Houston. And we've just passed, of course, the Texas Gulf Coast of the #1 exporting place in the United States and in the world. 80% comes out of the Gulf Coast. And they will double by the year 2020. That's less than a year. The exports from the Gulf will double. The financial impact of that, we have 254 counties in the state of Texas. 223 of those get oil and gas revenue. 30% of the Texas economy is direct and indirect oil and gas. We had, for every dollar we used to give the government, former comptroller, the state of Texas government returns $50 for every $1 invested. And I always make that point to my former legislators when we go asking for funds. They get $50 for every one they invest with the Railroad Commission. $11 billion of state, local taxes and royalties. 600,000 families in this state get royalty checks. The Permian Basin, of course, that's been mentioned, is the epicenter of what's about to happen. It was amazing the day I was elected back in November of 2016. The next day, my wife and I were driving down to Texaco, which is the Texas Oil and Gas Association. We're having a little meeting, and on the radio it announced the largest find of oil in the history of mankind, Midland, Texas. And I'm thinking, if Donald Trump can take credit for 1,000 jobs at Carrier Air Conditioner, I can pull this one off. So I go to Texaco and say, hey, I got you the largest find ever, so welcome to my world. It'll be the epicenter. By itself, larger than the country of Kuwait. 2/3 of the U.S. oil growth, 40% of the world's growth are represented in the Permian Basin. Understand, that has not even been felt yet. Yet already, we're seeing an unbelievable amount of workforce need. At ILGCC nationally, #1 problem we have in the oil and gas industry nationally, employees, workers, truck drivers, petroleum engineers, anybody that's working. State of Texas, same thing. I've started a task force I've done on jobs and see some of our members here attending today, and we've looked at the different ways we can encourage, and I know you're very familiar with the debate that's taking place now about higher education is graduating $100,000 in debt without the capability of maybe getting a job. Really advantageous to taking good technical training and learning to get into an occupation such as in the petroleum industry. and receiving 6-digit income in the first couple of years with literally no debt. So it's a real opportunity. In fact, I'm very honored that Secretary Perry, they'll be hosting, and you're all invited, I'm sure, at the University of Houston on May the 15th, the Wednesday, we're having, the U.S. Energy Department is having the E2 conference. And at that time, they've asked me to speak on the task force and on our proposed pilot program, which will be a school for training for oil and gas and energy in the state of Texas, directly in rural Texas. Because I keep telling these folks in Houston and Dallas, and we love tremendously, they're looking for workers. And I say, where are you going? And they say, we're looking for them in the Greater Houston Partnership and this and that. I say, y'all are fishing in the wrong pond. The workers are in rural Texas where the opportunities are less, where their work ethic is a little bit higher, and where there's just opportunity there. So that's where we're looking for that. And let me mention real quickly, the thing that I appreciate so much, what you do in Washington, is fight agreements. You know, one of the reasons we don't change the Railroad Commission's name is because Al Gore and the Sierra Club would know what we were doing and show up over there protesting. Why don't we keep them confused, okay? Let me give you a real quick stat. 40,000 acres it takes for windmills to do 1 kilowatt of electricity. 10,000 acres of solar panels, 12.3 acres of a natural gas electric facility, right? Right now, I'm all for free market competition. If the windmills and solar panels and all them can compete in the free market, I'm all for it. But right now, the taxpayer, if it weren't for the taxpayer subsidy, which is taken out of your citizens' pocket, the solar and wind industry could not exist. It is absolutely amazing that the wind industry gets 800 times the funding of taxpayer subsidies as does oil and gas. Solar panels get 1,212 times the funding. And I'm sorry, these people that drive a $175,000 BMW do not need $10,000 tax credit to buy their cars. And right now, whenever they talk about electricity is what they need to drive, I'm sorry, where do they think the electricity is going to come from? You know, it's going to come from a natural gas, coal, or some type of fossil fuel generating plant. It's amazing to me that you sit and look at people that are looking at what's best for America, what's best for the citizens. And I tell you, Mother Earth is our goal. If Mother Earth is our goal, she ain't a friendly old lady. You can put your pumpkin in the backyard of your house for about a week, and I guarantee you'll move back inside. It's absolutely amazing how mean that lady is, if that's all they're after. The goal I think we should consider is what's best for mankind, for our children, for our grandchildren, for life. And I was with in Israel just a few weeks ago, months ago, with the Ambassador Friedman. And I asked him, I said, Ambassador, in the move that you've had here to the work in the Mideast, has the discovery of oil in West Texas made any great difference? And he looked at me and said, all the difference in the world. He said, in fact, on the conference called Worldwide, and all of the ambassadors worldwide are talking about we have completely an entire new agenda, a new freedom to negotiate for the United States of America worldwide. Folks, we understand that, number one, this is economic freedom we're looking at. We haven't even touched. And there are more pipelines that are under construction right now in the state of Texas than any time in history. We have 3 new refineries under construction or proposed in the state of Texas. We have 4 liquefied natural gas facilities that are under planning and proposal and construction in the state of Texas. This is before the Permian Basin even starts putting this out. All of these stats that we're leading the world in the United States. But folks, I want to be very careful to understand, it's not just economic security, that's important. It's not just energy security, that's important. But Barack Obama's number 3 advisor, I don't know how they do 1, 2, or 3 or what they say, but she said she was number 3 advisor to Barack Obama, spoke at one conference. And she made a point that I think is very important, we need to understand, and I think few do. Because of this God-given blessing that we've been given in the United States to now be, for the first time in 70+ years, energy dominant, energy independent, we have achieved national security. Understand, our young men and women, our best and our brightest, may no longer have to go to the Mideast and fight. They may not have to go to the Persian Gulf and fight for access to energy. And I think that's something that we need to let moms and dads across this nation understand. We're sitting here fighting the greedy folks about all the stats, and we can beat them in math every day. But what we're not hearing enough of is how we have the independence and the security as a nation that we've never had before because of oil and gas. Last thing, real good thing that the last 20, 30 years or so you hear about what's been the best thing for oil and gas. And I despise, one of my pet peeves, and many good friends do this, is we all are for clean energy, but the AOC and them, the Green Deal can't accomplish it. Please understand what you say in that. We understand we all want more clean energy. It's as if we aren't doing more as an oil and gas industry to clean the environment and have than any industry in the history of mankind. The temporary EPA director was in Dallas about 6 months ago and said this fact: even though population has increased in the United States, even though everything is up, the last 70 years we have decreased the labeled poisonous gases in the atmosphere by 73%. In fact, since Donald Trump took office, it's decreased by 2.7% of poisonous gases in that atmosphere. So folks, the thing is, we as a governmental groups and as industry, I think need to put on our big boy and girl britches and tell the truth to people. You know, the old saying you hear is, all it takes for evil to prevail is for good men and women to do nothing. Well, evil is partial truths. And when we sit back and endorse or I say it's a good deal on all this thing that you're doing, no, it's harmful what they're doing. They're threatening our economic security, national security, and our energy security when they fight what has been proven and gifted to us by the good Lord in this country. Thank you very much for allowing me to speak.